Welcome back, everybody, to the untitled D3 baseball podcast, where we get a name if somebody from the Christopher Newport Captains hits for the cycle this weekend. I'm Reed Rosales, joined by Will from D3 Region 10 Baseball. And on Monday, aka yesterday, sat and watched the selection show, or I put it on the background and listened to it at work. And as the teams came in, a lot of creative hosting decisions were made. Not a lot of bids to host were put in by top teams. And the committee did, I think, a really good job. Well, I want to know what your initial reaction to the bracket was.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was obviously the SkyAC not hosting, but I kind of assumed that with there being a 2 and a 3 seed, and they would have to really fly out a 1 seed or make Pomona the 1 seed as the MPI 28 and make that not necessarily a strong regional. It'd be a weaker regional in that sense with them being the one. So not super surprised at it, but definitely interesting. That was probably like my biggest one that I think everyone kind of look at. Center's hosting, right? Wash U, Aurora, and Piedmont. Like I was kind of surprised with Center, but makes sense how centralized they are to those schools. I'm assuming Endicott has graduation, and that's why they're not hosting Montclair State is. But yeah, overall, it makes sense for the most part, except for the one funky flight that we'll get into later.
I think the biggest surprise for me out of all the hosts was Southern Maine coming in from the rafters to host Rowan, RIT, and Babson. Shout out to them for putting in the host because, like I said, if you think you can host, you should always put in the host because you never know when your name might get called. And even though Southern Maine is way out there in Maine, they're pretty far away. They're able to get three teams to them. That was the most surprising host. I love that they're hosting. That's a very unique spot to host, but a lot of creative hosts. I believe only 8 of the top seeds, the top 16, are hosting. So that means half of them likely didn't put into host. Yeah, NCAA got creative and both Southern Maine called their number. The amount of flights that they were able to limit was also impressive, I thought. Flying the West East was a financially sound decision. They didn't put them in Texas, which was maybe a little surprising. I thought maybe they'd go there. But when you have Rhodes and Belhaven so close to ETBU and within driving distance, it made sense why they put them there, even though that ETBU has played Belhaven during the season. That kind of stinks. Also, Belhaven and Rhodes have played each other this season, which is another kind of oh well moment. But in terms of balance, it is one of the two regionals that is quote unquote misseeded. There's no seeding in the NCAA tournament technically. But to be honest, it's not that bad. ETBU's NPI 18 and Belhaven's NPI 19. If you're going to have two seeds in a regional, I'd say you want two seeds that are closer to the 1 seed mark than not. And the same thing with that other regional, Endicott, Montclair State, Whitworth, and Hudson. Endicott and Montclair State, they're both technically 1 seeds, but Endicott, I think, is NPI 13 and Montclair State is NPI 16. If you're going to have 2 1 seeds, might as well have 2 of the lower 1 seeds than not. So I think good job overall.
That ETBU regional has a lot of teams who are very familiar with each other. And I think that's going to be a very fun regional to watch because of it. I mean, Belhaven swept ETBU. I mean, Rose and Belhaven played. ETBU and Concordia, Texas have played this year. Like, they're all teams who have played each other a lot. And I think that regional is going to be super chippy because of it. Like, everyone's going to want to win that regional because they've played each other so much. Those seniors have played each other over the last 4 years and out of conference games. And those coaches know each other really well. They've coached in the same conferences before. And I mean, there's history there. So that'll be a really fun regional to watch just purely based off of location and how often those teams play each other regularly.
So we had 4 flights. We already mentioned Whitworth going to Montclair and Endicott and Hudson, which for Whitworth, tough that you have to go to the regional that has both 1 seeds. But Whitworth, they're they're good enough to come out of that regional for sure. I'm excited to see what they do there. Claremont flying to Medford to play at Tufts with Kane and Mitchell. I think that's a pretty good draw for Claremont, all things
Hmm.
considering. And then we had Pomona, who's going to be flying to Baltimore with Johns Hopkins, Mary Washington, and Pfeiffer. I think also a pretty decent draw for Pomona, all things
Yeah.
considered. Our last flight, the one that snuck under my radar, Grinnell, 4 seed, flying to Denison to round out that regional over in Granville, Ohio. I had this sneaking suspicion that one of these lower 4 seeds in the Iowa area, because I believe there were like 3 or 4 teams in Iowa that it's just too many to drive around in
Hmm.
that location of the country. So I kind of had a feeling that one of these teams is going to be flying somewhere, and it turns out it's Grinnell.
Yeah, and when we did our mock brackets, I had WashU as a host site purely to be able to get one of those teams. I can't remember who I brought down. But since WashU is not a host site because I'm pretty sure they have graduation, if I remember right, they had to fly someone in. Grinnell, sorry, you have to go play Denison. Best of luck.
That is a tough flight to get to get on. You have to play the team that's only lost 1 game this year. But
Upsets
hey,
do happen though, and I would love it.
that'd be the most shocking upset in the entire tournament
Yeah.
if it does that. I would say Denison not making it out of their regional would probably be the most shocking upset of the entire tournament.
Yeah. If Denison doesn't do that, yeah, it'll be pretty shocking.
Yeah, just taking a glance over all these regionals, like I said, they're all, I think, pretty fairly balanced.
Yeah.
I think Whitewater got a pretty good draw
Yeah.
for themselves in particular. But everyone else, I'd say, is like, I don't know, it's about as good as you can do for pretty much all these regionals.
Yeah, I think if I remember right, looking at it, Luther was like pretty low on the 3 seed, which really helps out Whitewater on like this the strength of their regional. But I mean, at the end of the day, you were the runner up 2 years ago, and you won the Natty last year. Honestly, seating wise, you kind of deserve the easiest regional if we're being real. Looking at the committee, I know someone put out that it's the second easiest regional compared to seeding and MPI, but still, at the end of the day, they kind of deserve it. They've been to the championship game the last 2 years, so.
Will, is there one regional in particular that sticks out as most exciting?
Oh, it's by far that ETBU regional. Like I said, it's going to be super chippy. All the guys have played each other, but the other one that I'm really excited to watch is the over under home runs at Johns Hopkins between the second most home running hitting team in the nation. John Hopkins was 91 bombs and Pomona Pitzer, who had 72. And for those who don't know, Pomona Pitzer has a really short right field. So they're used to hitting at a short field park. They're not going to change their swings at all. Their approach is going to stay exactly the same. So I'm very excited for that regional. There's going to be a lot of homers.
I think the regional that sticks out to me as having a lot of potential for being exciting is that Lynchburg regional. Oh man,
Hmm.
Lynchburg, Maryville, Christopher Newport, and Penn State Barron. I mean, Maryville beat Lynchburg earlier in the season.
Yep.
So for Lynchburg to draw them, that's a little tough. They get an opportunity to get a run back potentially. Christopher
Yep.
Newport is a great team. They've beaten really good opponents. And Penn State Barron, 4 seed, but they're scrappy 4 seed. I like that regional quite a bit. I think that's going to be really interesting.
Yeah.
Lynchburg, obviously the favorite, but still, Lynchburg might get pushed a little bit.
I want to say someone was saying that Penn State Bearing be like Tufts or someone. There's too many Penn States.
There are a lot of Penn State schools. They beat Mount Union
Yeah,
earlier in the
that's
year.
that's who it was. I mean, and that's a very good win and been in the top 25 for pretty much the whole entire year.
Yeah, this is Penn State Barron out of the Allegheny Mountain Collegiate Conference. who also has Penn State Altoona, not to be confused with all the Penn States in the United East Conference, including Penn State Abington, Penn State Brandywine, and Penn State Berks, and
And
Penn
Penn
State
State
Harrisburg.
Harrisburg. I was about to say the Harrisburg is the one where the dude hit 20 like 7 home runs a couple of years ago. Yeah, I'm really interested to see what you think of the ODAC, like kind of their regionals. Obviously, they're probably the favorite. Even in the one, I don't know if Macon is. I honestly think they're the favorite in that regional. But kind of just wanted your thoughts because four really good teams, three one seeds and a two seed.
Yeah, for Shenandoah, I think Shenandoah got a really good draw. Transylvania Messiah and Farmingdale State. This feels like a pretty solid Shenandoah regional that they can come out of. Transylvania is good, and so is Messiah. They can definitely challenge Shenandoah, but Shenandoah seems like they've been playing a level above everyone else in that regional. Bridgewater gets U Chicago, Washington and Jefferson and Scranton. I mean, if we're going by laws of transitive property, Bridgewater should have a very great advantage over U Chicago, considering Bridgewater beat Pomona and U Chicago lost to Pomona by a lot.
Bridgewater, Bridgewater and Kalamazoo kind of when they went out to the SCIAC ran them this year, and that kind of made the SCIAC's MPI lower than expected because their out of conference schedule it was they didn't have the best record. So yeah, I mean, but from talking to like the U Chicago fans, they have pitchers that didn't pitch in that Pomona series that have just been lights out that have started the back half of the season. So I'm very interested to see like the improvement. I haven't watched Chicago since the Pomona series, I'm going to be honest. So I'm very interested to see that improvement from guys who didn't play in the beginning of the season who are now starting on the mound for them.
But yeah, I think it's a good Bridgewater regional. And for Randolph Macon, they go to Russell Sage with Trinity, Connecticut, and Penn State Harrisburg. That's an interesting regional. I would tend to agree that I think Randolph Macon's the favorite for this because I'm still kind of sleeping on Russell Sage, not gonna lie. But Randolph Macon was in a very similar position last year where they
Mm-hmm.
hosted Brockport, that Empire 8 team that made it in as a top 16 seed, and they did not end up winning that regional. They got upended by the eventual Cinderella story, Messiah.
Yep.
So if Randolph Macon can make it past Trinity, Connecticut and just prove that, you know, they can be consistent, Randolph
Yeah.
Macon definitely has a good chance of making it out. And that would mean that four ODAC teams, all four of them make it out of a regional. That'd be pretty solid for the ODAC. Honestly, they have a pretty, all the ODAC schools have a pretty nice path to the College World Series, all things considered.
Yeah, I was about to say, do none of them meet in the super? I'm looking at the NCAA website, and it's definitely wrong.
Yeah, the NCAA website, I don't know what happened there. If you're not looking at it at home, they have listed it from one, two, three, four, five, six. It's like they have messed up the formatting on the website. That is inaccurate if you go look at it.
Okay.
Inaccurate for super regionals. The regionals are right.
Whitewater and Lacrosse can't even meet in the super. So I'm very glad they did that for those conferences because we've seen it far too often in the past where it's, oh, these teams play in a super every single year. So I'm glad they didn't do that.
Yeah, that's definitely tough for Pomona and Claremont. You think with flying them, you could put them in different super regional sections, but I guess not. Oh well, at least they're not going to some ultra stacked regional or some or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, like if one of those two teams would have been thrown in like the Whitewater Regional, it'd have been like, okay, this is actually a way stronger regional than people realize. Or the Denison Regional. It'll be some fun baseball to watch overall.
I think, yeah, I think that about sums up my thoughts on the bracket. Good job. 62 out of 64 teams properly seeded, I would say.
My only one, I guess, would be Wittenberg and a paw in the same pod, which I mean we talked about a little bit offline of it makes them the most even with them in that pod. So Kind of sucks the same conference in the pod, but
Yeah, it is unfortunate, but I looked at that list of three seeds and honestly, I tried to see if I could find somebody to swap them with. I don't really think I could find anybody that would work well. So that might have been DePauw's only destination. Other than you could have switched them with Kalamazoo, although I
yeah.
don't think DePaul would have appreciated being put in with Dennison. If you have to be paired with a conference mate, be paired with the one that is not what 42 and 1.
Yeah. And I feel so bad. One of the Kalamazoo coaches reached out to me before we did our pre our our bracketology and was like, "Where do you have us going?" And I was like, "I have you guys going to Denison." He's like, "Get us out of there." And of course the bracket comes out the next day and they're with Denison. I was like, "Oh, I jinxed it. I am so sorry, Kalamazoo."
I think I had a couple 3 out of 4. I had two regionals that came out that were I had 3 out of 4 right. So that was exciting. I got 7 out of the 8 super regional pairs right. So I'm happy with that.
That's pretty good. I need to go back and go through everything.
Well, if you don't have anything else to say about the bracket, I think it's challenge time. I think it's
Yeah.
heads up time. If you didn't listen to our live call on X or Twitter, that was it yesterday, 2 days ago at this point. I'm losing track of time already. Will went 1 for 5 in the Cinco de Mayo challenge. Batting at the Mendoza line.
Yep.
What are you gonna do, right?
Yeah. End of the day, should have bet that Henderson was going to hit 5 bombs instead of get walked 5 times. I mean, should have known that he was just going to hit bomb after bomb. He did hit 4 on the Saturday alone. So,
Meanwhile, in the who's in, who's out Gettysburg challenge, I went 3 for 3 on correctly calling Ramapo in and leaving Gettysburg and Worcester out. But this week, Will, I'm going to give you a choice. I have 4 different levels of difficulty for challenges. I
okay.
have I have very easy, easy, medium, and hard, and I'll let you choose which difficulty you want.
We're going hard because it is playoff baseball and we accept nothing less than the best.
All right. I'm just gonna say you brought this upon yourself.
Okay.
This week's challenge is called "They're both stickball after all." I'm gonna give you a list of teams. And I'll send it to you as well because it's slightly lengthy. But Pfeiffer, Bellhaven, Mount Union, Christopher Newport, ETBU, Denison, Rowan, Husson, Endicott, Bethany Lutheran, Tufts, Transylvania, Penn State Barron, Messiah, Wartburg, Portland, and Wash U all have something in common, Will. They all have one thing in common, and that is the fact that their school got both a baseball and a softball team in the tournament. And I just need you to tell me which school will have both teams in a super regional.
Okay. One sec. Let me look at this list because I don't know softball as well, but I know that ETBU is really nasty in softball. But I feel like Rowan could be really good.
I will say, so there's a couple of these softball schools that are together. ETBU,
Okay.
Denison, and Rowan are all in the same regional.
Oh, dude. And is the regional in ETBU and they flew Denison and Rowan to ETBU?
Yes, that is
That
correct.
is wild. I think I was looking at it because if I remember right, like ETBU, there was something weird where the conferences are different, and so they have to fly everyone. ETBU, Denison, and Rowan are all in the same.
Yeah, they're all in the same regional, which is funny.
Who's in the regional for softball with Bellhaven?
Bellhaven is by themselves in the softball bracket. They're with Emory, Barry, and Westminster, Pennsylvania.
We're just gonna go ETBU. I feel like that's the safest bet because I just see ETBU softball stuff all the time. But I feel like Bellhaven's really good at softball too. Maybe I'm making a D3 Region 10 softball account here soon.
Remember, this is both baseball and softball making a
Yep.
super.
which is kind of hard to swallow because ETBU has the hardest baseball regional. So yeah, we're gonna roll the dice to say ETBU.
All right. You're just calling ETBU?
Oh, can I say multiple teams?
You can say multiple teams. I will say
Mm.
Mount Union and Christopher Newport are in the same softball region as well. Mount Union is the 1 seed and Newport is the 2 seed in that regional.
In softball, is Endicott the 1 seed as well? Are they?
Endicott is the 4 seed. Hudson
Yeah,
is the
we're
1 seed.
Huss is the 1 seed in that one.
Yes.
What is Tufts?
Tufts is the 1 seed in their
Oh,
regional.
that is. Do I go against this guy? In my official bracket, well, out of all the teams that I've chosen, I'm going ETBU only because I chose in my bracket. I had ETBU, Denison, Rowan, Endicott advancing out of this list in my bracket that I submitted to D3P's Pick'em Challenge. So just ETBU will be chosen.
So ETB will be the one institution celebrating a both their teams making it to the super regional because they're both stickball after all. And I believe that, yeah, there's two Marshall regionals once again. They do that. They've done that back to back years, maybe back to back to back years.
I
Really good
think
job.
maybe even 4 years in a row.
Yeah, yeah, I
Quite
think you're right.
possible. Well, Reed, you challenged me to the Cinco de Mayo challenge last week. So I'm going to challenge you to the Sweet 16 birthday party challenge. You are going to choose from these categories. What regional has 16 home runs, 16 walks, 16 strikeouts in one game, 16 doubles, and let's go 16 stolen bases?
Well, my home runs is going to be the obvious pick. I'm definitely picking that Hopkins regional
Yeah.
for the home runs. I think
I
that's
mean,
pretty easy.
you could choose ETVU as well.
That is true, but Hopkins brought in two not home run inclined teams last year, and that regional produced 21 home runs. So I'm picking Hopkins there. 16 walks. Who are our patient teams? I think the stolen bases one is the most interesting because I'm trying to think who steals a lot of bases. Because the people who I know Piedmont has a guy who likes to steal a lot of bases,
Hmm.
but I don't know if the other teams in that regional like to steal a lot of bases in comparison. So Lynchburg is leading the nation in walks, and I feel like Maryville's not far behind either. Never mind, they're really far behind. They're not in the top 50, which is what I was kind of hoping. And I'm guessing I can't double dip on any of these.
Yeah, no. Let's spread them out. 5 different regionals.
Man, well, you know what? I might go against what I originally said earlier. I think I am going to go ETBU for home runs because I've just noticed that Pomona Pitzer and Hopkins are both top four in the nation in drawing walks. So I'm gonna go Hopkins for walks, ETBU for homers. Ks, who are our K getters? I have to imagine Salve's got to be up there somewhere because I just know them for strong pitching staffs year after year. Oh, this might be a little easier than I imagined. I'm going Denison for strikeouts.
Back.
Denison and Kalamazoo are both top five and getting strikeouts.
Okay, so it's
So
16
it's in a
strikeouts
game.
in one game. So
And I
Grinnell,
imagine combined between the two teams, right?
yeah.
For this doubles one, are we just specifically saying doubles or are we doing just extra base hits in general?
Let's do doubles.
Gotcha.
Who plays at a big park?
Yeah, right. That's what I'm thinking about. Wittenberg, Bridgewater, and Baldwin Wallace are the top three in getting doubles, which is funny, but none of them are hosting, so I can't say any of them, which is unfortunate. I'm going the DeSales Regional where Salve is,
Okay.
because Salve is 13 and DeSales is 15 in the nation. Stolen bases. I feel like this is the one that might be the most difficult because I feel like this depends on who's catching the game. Russell Sage leads. Wow, they lead the nation in stolen bases by a lot. They have 190 stolen bags, and the second place is Washington College with 152.
Dang.
That is crazy. A lot of these high stolen base teams are not in the tournament. Yeah, I'm gonna go Wash U for stolen
Okay.
bases. Technically, it's not at Wash U; it's at center. But honestly, I don't know if we have anything else to talk about other than those challenges.
Yeah,
If
that's it for me. Best of luck to all the teams this week. It'll be fun watching everyone get after it. This is what you play for postseason baseball.
and maybe we will reconvene for super regional talk because that's a lot less than previewing 64 teams,
Yep.
which is why we didn't really do
Yeah,
that.
and I can't wait to do my meta analysis of pitching your ace in a double elimination. Game one versus nine.
It's a game of chess.
Yep.